are live on YouTube. Now we're just welcoming all the participants into the main Zoom room here. So excited for today's call. So excited for what we're going to learn, what we're going to experience, and how we're going to deepen our hearts and our minds in a real mystical journey of love through inspiring music and messages from Rabbi Stephen and Eva Robbins. So I just, from my heart to your heart. Oh, it looks like we haven't entered everyone in yet. Should I admit everybody in? Jeff?
Jeff?
Yeah.
You need to take the space out of expanded spirit.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, it's showing here. It's got a space.
Oh, you know what? That's
in the chat.
In autocorrect.
Yeah, I'm just. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then Jeff, do you know how to admit everyone from the waiting room?
That's it.
That's
right, Jeff.
You just go to admit everyone from the waiting room, you just click participants, and at the top it'll say admit all. And you can click admit all. Right before that, it may allow you to mute participants upon entry.
Although something's. Yeah, I don't know what happened, Clint.
Oh, to allow you to do that? I can do it from my end. Do you want me to do it right now?
Yeah, I just don't. Oh, there it is. I got it. Sorry.
There we go. Now everyone's starting. And then there's with that 3 little dots at the bottom, Jeff, you can disable the waiting room. So that way we don't have to keep admitting people.
Yeah.
Do you see where to do that? All right. And then you can go ahead and mute participants here.
You mean the rest still stays at a 13 and we're just going to estimate the part.
Okay, I just did that. I just muted everyone, but I'm gonna unmute. Okay. Jeff, there's a little place where you can disable the waiting room too. I'm just gonna see if you can see where that is real quick. Welcome everybody. I just wanna say welcome everybody. So excited to have you on. I did one welcome already once we went live on YouTube, but I wanna welcome everyone now that you're in the Zoom room for this really remarkable experience. We're gonna have this special bonus call with Rabbi Stephen and Eva Robbins about how you can be a miracle in the lives of others and how you are a miracle. I just wanna make sure we get all the technical stuff all set up. So real quick, Jeff, are you able to see how to disable the waiting room? If not, I can walk you through it real quick. Let's see here. So to disable the waiting room, there's like 3 little dots where it's like when you click on participants, there's 3 little dots, and you may have already done it, but it says enable the waiting room or disable the waiting room. If you disable it, then people would just come straight in. And you can also click on mute participants on entry. All right, I think we got it. All right, super. So welcome everybody. And very excited. From my heart, I first met Rabbi Robbins years ago when writing this book, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. His story inspired me, impressed me so much. I put it as a big part of chapter 7. So if you want to read about his story and how Dr. Ram was a miracle in his life, there's that whole section of the book. And then since then, last summer, on the very last trip that Dr. Ram and I took to the USA before Dr. Ram left the body, one of the things he says I need to do is he says, I need to meet with Rabbi Robbins. So in LA, Rabbi Robbins made a special trip to the hotel, the little area we were staying. It was just like a beautiful meeting, seeing these 2 golden souls reunite after so many years and seeing them embrace. And it was honestly, it was so inspiring. And then Rabbi Robbins giving me a hug and saying, you know, you're doing this work for a reason. So last Sunday on our Miracle Experiment game, we had Rabbi Robbins, Stephen and Rabbi Eva Robbins on the call, and they inspired us so much. We asked them, please come back on Wednesday, spend an entire hour with us and help us drop into our heart and our soul and teach us what you know about how we can become miracle in the lives of others. So I'm going to hand over the rest of the time to Eva and Stephen Robbins. Please give them a big, warm welcome from your heart. Namaste and welcome. Oh, I forgot to say for everyone who's on the call with us live, I just want you to put in the chat where in the world you're listening from. So as we're welcoming you, just tell Rabbi Stephen and Eva Robbins, where are you joining from? Where in the world are you joining from? Just go ahead and put that in the chat. And it's just so fun. We got Monica from Florida, Cornelia from the Bahamas. We got many people from India, Pasadena, California. We got people from Hawaii, from Belize, Maryland, Virginia. We got so many people from all over the world. Toronto, the Netherlands, Utah, Phoenix. It's so fun. Newport, New York, New Jersey, also Toronto. Wow. The Netherlands. So literally a global audience, Rabbi Robbins and Eva, Rabbi, I'll just say rabbis, because they're both rabbis. But from our heart to your heart, we're so excited to learn from you and the rest of the time that we have with you. So turning the time over to you.
Thank you, Clint.
Wow, it's overwhelming to be in the presence of so many of you all over the world. It's really an honor.
And a privilege to have you come to share with us from our hearts to yours in such a personal way that given the tragedy that we are all living in now and all the dimensions of chaos, that love and inspiration transcends time and distance, and we all become present with each other.
La 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 Inani I am here I am, present, yes I am here I am, present, yes I am. Presence is such an important element of being available for the other. Being a miracle for other people is so much about the other and less about ourselves. I know Clint has been inspiring everybody to really understand how miraculous we can each be. But you know, we're in a society that is so focused on the I, the self, right? Self-learning, self-development, self-growth. But to be a miracle for other people and for somebody else who is significant in your life, or even those that you touch and you're not even aware of it, is to be focused on the outside. It's to be focused on the other and less on the me. There is a principle in our teaching. It comes from the Talmud, which is this huge compendium that was a response to the Torah. And it has a lot of laws and a lot of teachings, and it has stories. And Judaism is very focused on behavior and who we are in the world, our ethics, our values, and how we treat the other. But there is this beautiful principle that I wanted to share. And in Hebrew, it's lifnim mishurat hadin. Lifnim mishurat hadin. And when you translate it, it means to go beyond the letter of the law. So why do I talk about going beyond the letter of the law today? Because we create a life that has structure and boundaries and limits. But sometimes we have to go beyond that. And true giving is really about going beyond what's expected, beyond what might be needed, to be really focused on how you can give. When we were here last week, Steve and I each talked about how the other is a miracle for each one of us, how Steve has been a miracle for me, and how he can talk about I've been a
Jen,
miracle.
she's been my miracle for 48 years together.
And it's very powerful to know, I mean, for me personally, that I have been able to nurture, respond, and be there to help him grow and become who he needs to be. And I know that that's how he feels about my presence in his life. I would never be singing if it hadn't been for my husband. That's the kind of miracle that happened for me because of his nurturance and his ability to say, you need to do this, you need to share this, even though it was very difficult. So I want to share a little personal story before we do something interdirected and Rabbi will continue the teaching. My parents are Holocaust survivors. They're no longer in this world, but they saw the worst of death, and they also appreciated the miracle of life. And when I came into their life in 1947, it was a miraculous reality. I was one of the first children in Sweden in a particular area where many of the survivors were taken so they could be healed. My mother probably weighed about 60 pounds when she got there. And within about a year and a half, she had the capacity to conceive and give birth. And there was something I really understood growing up, and that was I was here in this world, not just for me, but for them. And then what would that mean later for me in partnership or in the work that I do now? And that's partially what miraculous is about. It's being able to understand, what is my role? What do I do that helps the other heal, grow, find comfort, find nurturance? So today is really focused on what we can do that really helps the person, right, that we meet. I always have believed that we are angels for each other. And we don't know it. We don't know the people that we touch, the people that we move. Sometimes we do, but we go through life often just being the goodness that we are, and it has an impact in somebody's life. And that is often the little miracle that we're so unaware of. So before Rabbi begins his teaching, I want to ask all of you to welcome you to please close your eyes for just a moment, just to invite you to go inside. The word hineni means to be fully present, to be really here. And in order to continue as a community and to talk about the other, it's important to be fully present. And to allow yourself to receive a breath that sustains you and nurtures you. And then return it. But return it with a sense of gratitude. And then to take a moment just to pause in that partnership, being aware that you're not here just for yourself, but you're here for others. Just continue to take a deep breath and let it fill you and know that it comes from one source, from the divine. And then return it back, knowing that you feed all of creation and you share again in that partnership with the Holy One, with the universal chi, the key, however you want to view what is bigger and more expanded than us. The mysticism speaks of one that has no end. And we are all part of that, the Ein Sof. Being a miracle for others is to really be aware that we are in a world that's much larger and greater than our own. And that we are here not only for ourselves, to satisfy our needs, to feel fully comforted, but also to be there for others, to be able to give beyond what's expected, to be able to share, focused on the other and less on ourselves.
So much of the discussion about spirituality, healing, and connection uses the word energy. But in our understanding, both from the sources of Jewish mystical spirituality called Kabbalah, which means itself to receive, that the act of being present means that it is the sharing, the being able to gaze into each other's eyes, to be present in each other's being. That's what produces energy. Even Einstein's simple equation, E equals mc squared, teaches us that energy is the result of something physical meeting light, its speed squared. Remember, light is 186,000 miles per second per second. It increases. And when you square that to an infinite number, it is when something physical and that presence meet, that energy happens. So that energy is not a cause, it is an effect. And that when we are truly present in each other's lives, that the energy that results is life-giving and sustaining for all of us. It is not only healing, but it is also transformational. It lifts us out of the going around and around in circles like a dog chasing his tail, so that it's like a helix rising and rising and rising to higher levels. That's what our high holidays are about. It's about the transformation so that each year we come to a level of higher understanding and higher levels of behavior. The word hineni or hineni is the ultimate statement of presence. The word is a contraction of two, hine, which is here, and ani, which is I. And it is the term that Abraham and Jacob and Moses and all of the prophets, the men and the women who were called upon by God to be present, said, it's not I am here, but it's here am I. the identity, the uniqueness of being. And it is also, I am here, which means that I am present, that I am the place. I am a place here that has meaning and purpose. And so the I, the identity, the uniqueness, and the being in the world join together so that each of us are a focal point in which we connect to each other like the particles of existence in quantum physics that sustain each other's beings. And we are transformed in the simple act of being present with each other. And when we do that, we unify the sparks of God's being, which is scattered source of all of existence itself. When Eva started the chant with chesed, with Hineni, she also has a chant for the word chesed. Chesed means loving kindness. It is what
I'm on
flows
my
out.
last page.
Okay, put it here. You have to go online.
After I swear you're not.
Chesed means to be filled with loving kindness toward others, regardless of their struggles, their difficulties, even toward us. And in Chesed, we learn not forgiveness itself, but to no longer be victims, to no longer live as ones who are subjugated by others or by the struggles that life presents. And when we transcend the state of being victims, we become victors, and we teach others to be victorious in their lives. And when we do this, we each become miracles in the lives of others. We become inspiration. Remember, inspire means to be breathed into. In the way in Genesis 2:7, it says that God breathes into Adam in the soul of living in order that Adam become a living being. When I was born dead, it was the doctor in 1944 who breathed into me and brought me to life. I had never experienced that incredible moment until the first time Eva and I kissed. And it was her breathing into me that brought me to a new level of being and awareness. We breathed in and out of each other and have been doing that now since we met in 1971. We're married in 72.
Let me just pick up. I want to just pick up for a moment about how Torah, the Bible, teaches us something really important from the very beginning, and Stephen referred to it. You know, the God that we meet in the first chapter of the Bible is called Elohim. Elohim. And the word Elohim has a particular kind of understanding and meaning. It's very much about, and the first chapter of creation is about setting, about boundaries, about creating a structure, about, in a way, some limits and boundaries because it didn't exist until that moment. But when we get to chapter 2, we have a different word and a different name. It's probably the most important name that there is for the Holy One, and it's represented by 4 letters. We're really not supposed to express it the way it's written, so we say Adonai. And
Which means my Lord.
And Adonai has a very different value, meaning, importance, and expression, because it represents the opposite of Elohim, which is about law and structure, and a word in Hebrew called din, which is judgment. Adonai represents something different, and it's what God understood, that what needs to be infused into creation, which is based on structure and laws and order, is a sense of compassion, a sense of what we call rachamim. Compassion is the outpouring and the understanding that within the system of rules and laws, people do make mistakes. And so the God of compassion, of rachamim, and what's important to understand is the word rachamim, the root of that word is rechem, which is a womb. God's name, and one of the names for God, which is the compassionate one, is based on a womb. And what is more compassionate than the womb, right? Within the woman's body, the place that holds and nurtures and protects the fetus. And so the Bible in the first 2 chapters introduces us to this basic concept that there is the rule of law, and then there is what in chapter 2, the spirit of the law, that sense of forgiveness, that sense of compassion, that sense of understanding. And that's what we need to really be able to connect to, because in order to be a miracle in somebody else's life, you need to have a lot of empathy, a lot of compassion, a lot of kindness, and you need to be able to, in quotes, sacrifice at times what you need and what you want in order to care for the other. And our society tends not to focus on that kind of giving and that kind of living. You know, the word selfie that we all live with is so focused on, on the self. And it's right on every level of culture. I recall walking down the street about 2 months ago, in the middle of COVID, and Steve and I were wearing masks, of course, and there were some young adults walking down the street taking selfies. And they were more concerned about their pleasure and themselves instead of the other, instead of the impact of who they are and what they were doing on people like us. But this is the way we're acculturated, is to take selfies, be focused on the self, be focused on our needs. And today was important because it was really about focusing outward, focusing beyond who you are and who you need, and to be that miracle for other people. I feel fortunate that not only did I find a partner who is willing to support who I need to be as a human being, who often saw before I saw where my path needed to go, where it led. And so that was a great fortune and miracle that happened in my life. But the kind of work that I do now, which for me is sometimes, I don't, miraculous isn't quite the word. It's an utter surprise and unexpected, because I started as one life, and as many of us do, transform into other kinds of lives. And I've ended up in a life I never expected. And it largely was because my husband became ill. And because of his illness and the work that we do together, I felt it was important to continue that work, which was why I became a rabbi. It was not the dream of my life. It was not where I expected to go as a child or a teenager, even a young adult. So I feel that the miraculous is that even in the pain and the suffering and the loss of what we dealt with over the past 15 years, something miraculous was discovered. And it was a pathway in order to continue to do something that was outer directed. It was about being of service and being a facilitator for other people so that they could find, the joy, the satisfaction, the pleasure, the comfort. And so my work keeps me focused on the other and less about me. And our relationship and the struggles and the challenges we've had have also demanded for me to focus on Steve sometimes more than myself. And so I share that personally because sometimes we need to get out of me and I and focus on the you and the other.
Can I share one thing real quick?
Sure.
I'm so inspired by what you're sharing. I wasn't expecting it to, I knew it was going to be beautiful, but I wasn't expecting it to hit me so deep. But as you're sharing about being the miracle in the lives of others, and I'm looking at the faces of the people on this call, and I'm so moved because so many of the people on this call have been miracles in the lives of other people on this call without even knowing it. And even right before this call started, Mom, I'm hoping you can share your experience. I was going to save this for Sunday, but my mom says, I'm so excited. Can I share a miracle that happened with you? I was like, please, I love hearing miracles. And it was because of someone else on this call who didn't even know it that inspired my mom that this miracle happened. So Mom, I don't know if you can unmute yourself and share this miracle, but it's just a little taste that sometimes even by just sharing your miracle, you're becoming a miracle in the lives for others. I know that's happened many times for people on this call. When Francesca shared, that inspired Amruta, then Amruta inspired other people. So Mom, I don't know if you can unmute yourself and share this little miracle. It's a beautiful, powerful miracle.
I know you gave me her name and that she was from Brazil, but
Yeah.
I decided I've eaten mung bean, but just as a meal, not as a challenge. And so I decided because of, what was her name?
Louisa.
Louisa.
Yeah.
Brazil, saying that she went from a 4 cartilage damage to 2, that I decided I wanted to see if there was a miracle in my life. And after 3 days of just mung bean soup, I realized that the pain in my knees were gone. And I was so excited to share it with Clint.
Yeah. Louisa, I don't know if you can unmute yourself, but I just want to say that this is so beautiful. Like, because my mom has known me for my whole life, obviously. And she's known I've been doing this with Dr. On for 10 years. But Louisa, are you able to unmute yourself?
I guess so. Yes. Hi.
I guess.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Because you shared your story, my mom decided to take it seriously. And in only 3 days have her knee pain go away. It just makes me so happy. It's so beautiful.
It's amazing. It's amazing because knee pain is horrible. It's horrible. It's so, you can move yourself. It's horrible. I'm so happy for you. So good. I have no idea that my story was impacting other people's here. So happy.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
That is so much that's happened with both Eva and I, as I have gone through now 7 near-death experiences. The last one was only a few weeks ago. And I've had 3 lung collapses and almost fatal hepatitis, in addition to being born dead. And I've had 12 major surgeries. And I live with level 10 pain from shingles damage for the last almost 16 years. And yet, each of those moments, most of them in the life of Eva and I together, I have emerged physically challenged, but spiritually and psychologically uplifted and challenged because of this miracle that was given to me as the blessing in my life. Where I was focused when we met by one of those accidental spiritual surprises that completely changed the direction of my life. I was unsure about where to go. I started being a rabbi when I was 16. This will be my 60th year doing services on the high holidays. And I had been studying Gestalt and psychodrama reality therapies at a place called Esalen back in the 60s. And when Eva and I met, she had come to be in a group that I was leading And it was there in that moment when I turned around and looked into her eyes that my heart exploded, hit my feet, and went all the way up through my head, and has never changed from that moment to this. And in each of the illnesses I've gone through, she has been there to hold me, to support me, to welcome me, and to nurture me through moments that have challenged her in some ways, even more than they challenged me. So that any people say that they're inspired by everything I've gone through. And my response is the inspiration is not what I've gone through in myself. It is what we have gone through together, and the way whatever challenges have come to me physically, psychologically, or spiritually have also come to her. When I was so broken up in 2005 by the third lung collapse and the destruction of the right side of my body by shingles, that I turned to her and I said, you know what, wherever my life is going, and I was very busy in a psychological practice in our synagogue, started a new kind of rabbinical school, which is now 20 years old. I said, whatever I've been is coming to an end. It's time for me to step back and for you to step forward. And she's done that. She took, first by stepping into my place and then going beyond my place into hers, so that our stepping forward and back and knowing when to give each other the room to grow and to expand, to welcome, to guide, and to be so committed to the surprise, the challenge that's provided, is so profound. For me, spiritual growth comes in the astonishment, the moment of being surprised by something you didn't expect. And instead of turning away from it, turning into it. For me, the archetype is when Moses is chasing the lamb and the sun is going down and he catches this glimmer of a bush that burns, that is not consumed. And he says, I think I will turn aside and see this wonder. And from that moment on, everything in existence changed. Because when he entered that bush, God called Moses' name, Moses, Moses, and Moses answered, Hineni, I am here, here I am. And the flames of the bush enfolded him and burned away like gold, having the dross burned away, so that what is left is paz, is pure, fine, malleable gold. That's what each of us are in the moments of our challenges, and we become the miracles by transforming. And in that transformation, others around us participate in that miracle, and they become the means, the catalysts, the containers, the Elohim that hold the Adonai, that can flow like molten gold, but needs something to hold it so that it doesn't just flow away. The miraculous is the flowing and the containment that continually transforms an incomplete existence into another stage of wholeness. The miracle is that in order for existence to be, the Holy One chooses to become incomplete, unfinished, so that God's presence is scattered in every particle of existence. And it is in our hands to unify those particles to bring what we call shalom, not peace, wholeness, or better for me, the word synergy, in which the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That math means that the value is calculated not on quality, but on I mean, starting not on quantity, how much that the whole is equal to the sum of its parts, but that it is the quality, the wholeness, that is greater than the sum of its parts. That is the meaning of the word echad, one. When we refer to God as one, it is not a number. It is a quality of the wholeness of all of our being. And it is in that we found the miracle of each other. My wholeness and completeness flowed from the transformation of this soul's presence and the giving of unlimited love to me that made it possible for me to be sitting here saying these words to each of you and receiving back from each of you the love and the support that comes even across what appears to be distance and time, but actually is only an illusion, because at this moment we are all Hineni, we are all present for each other.
So beautiful. I want to say, I just want to give you some feedback from people who are writing things. First of all, Arlene says, my heart is melting. Carol, she says, we weave our miracle tapestry, the ripple effect, the tsunami of love and understanding engulfing others. And Michael says, Rabbi, so beautiful to hear you speak these words to the love for your life, or to the love of your life. So basically to Eva, so few people can talk this way. Your love for each other is a miracle for me to hear. And Arlene calls it a partnership of the divine. I just want to say you're really touching our heart. And as you're speaking, just last night, I had an awareness, an awakening that struck me. All of a sudden, I realized that I'm scared of romantic love for some reason. Like I didn't know this because I love people. But when it comes to a relationship, something about it, like if I'm being really naked right now and authentic, like it scares me. So I don't think it's an accident, the timing of this. Maybe could you speak to that for people who aren't in a relationship and admire what you have and say, wow, that looks divine. And any word or things you could share to that point.
People are very, very frightened, carry a lot of fears about being exposed and being their true selves. Will I really be loved? If I show my flaws, if I show those black spots, will they run away? And ultimately there is a surrender that one has to be willing to do. It's the risk, and it's the courage despite the fear. Because what is courage? It doesn't mean you don't have fears. It's because you have them, but you're going to take the risk and to move forward. And ultimately, if you let your true self shine, if you can let the fear and the darkness that you're preoccupied with go into the background and just focus on the other, because that's what it's about. It's about being willing to see the other person, to see their beauty, their needs. How can I be here for you? The more you do that, the less likely you are to scare people and to have them run away, because that's what everybody wants, right? They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be loved, they want to know that they count. The more you do that for someone else, the more you reap the joys. And I wanted to pick up on something that Steve introduced, and it has to do with the God that existed and that did something very compassionate and loving. In Kabbalah, we call it tzimtzum. It means to contract. So in some ways, this is a principle that fits, Clint, to what you're talking about. Frequently, we don't know how to contract and hold back. In order for creation to come into the world, God understood that there needed to be room for the rest of us, because all that existed at one point was divine God, Holy One, what we call Ein Sof, no end to that whatever that presence was.
No boundaries, no specificity, just pure holy presence,
And
which was unsatisfactory to God, God's self.
it's all that existed. And in order for us to come into the world, the gift of the universe and people and creatures and creation, God had to pull back a little bit, right? God had to contract.
Like a womb.
Well, no, I actually didn't want to go to that
Yeah.
image. I wanted to go to the image that what you're talking about is sometimes what you have to do to have relationship is to pull back a little bit and make room for the other. And to think about how we can live out that kind of tzimtzum. You know, when Steve became ill, it was a little bit what I call enforced tzimtzum, because my husband is this unbelievable presence and huge, expansive being and soul. And there were many times in that relationship where I felt, you know, on the sidekick or behind, and not as much fully present. And in some ways, his illness was an enforced contraction. And I had a choice whether to step forward or maintain the balance as it was. And that was my risk. That was my fear that I had to get past was, can I walk into these shoes? But I realized, you know, I can only be me, and that's okay. We always judge ourselves against someone else. And for many of the years we've lived together, I've always judged myself against my husband, who's unbelievably huge, expansive, and brilliant, and creative, and innovative. And that's, you know, that was a hard place to be. And God, in some ways, is all of that too. And it's very hard for us to be present if there isn't that room, if we don't contract, if we don't pull back to make room for the other. You would be surprised how your relationship grows and expands the more you leave room for somebody else to be present.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I just want to read Nandita. She says, there's something about you speaking that she feels more a quality of remembering than learning something new. So amazing to hear such healing words. Michael says, this is not just for those who are not in a relationship, it's also for those who are in a relationship, but need to hear the words of these two lovebirds sing. And Linda says, so true, Michael. Francesca says, I've been scared of romantic relationships all my life, so you're not alone. Eileen said, that's what we're here to do. The fear of romantic relationships is so common, Esther says. I have that as well. Rabbi Steve helped my late husband and I through our struggles. And Eileen says, it's like the ocean. It's beautiful. It's beautiful what you're speaking, and it's just touching people's hearts. Michael says, we have to be so damn perfect and expect others to be perfect in romantic relationships. Instead of vulnerable and flawed, exposing ourselves. These two see the gold and bring out the gold in each other. Arlene says, Eva really sees in Stephen, it sees him in his beauty of his God self. So beautiful. You're touching our heart so much.
Well,
There was, from the moment that we met, I know of the enormous gifts of talent and beauty and creativity that was in Eva, that had been locked away in shyness. She could barely speak in a group. It took 20 years before I could get her to sing publicly. And
you know, let me just, I just want to share something as Steve is talking about this. You know, both of us were married before we met each other. Way back when. I was married for 5 years. Steve was married for 3. And, you know, in those moments when I was in what I would call an abusive relationship, there were moments that I felt, you know, very small and very insignificant and very fearful about what it would mean to step out of that. So it always hasn't been rosy and easy. We've raised 3 children, multiple blockages in our lives that we've had to deal and overcome and share in the process. So it hasn't all been
Roses.
roses. No, and life is not like that. I think the issue is that we have a fantasy about love and we have a fantasy about relationships, that they're going to be perfect and they're going to be okay. The truth is that the real test is when things are difficult, when things are hard, when things are challenging, when you don't behave as expected or the other as well, that somehow you come together to work as a partnership, to work through it, not be enemies and not be abusive and difficult and close off. You pull in, you do the tsing tsum and you make some room and you surrender to the moment and realize that you have more to learn and more to grow and more to share. And that's very much a part of the reality of a relationship.
Understand that what we call romantic love is the essence of intimacy, true intimacy. And the image is played out in the Kabbalistic image of the male and the female dimensions of God's presence. And that on the Sabbath and the holidays, the two come together and make what's called yichud, a unification. It is a divine intercourse, a sense of the rebirthing, not simply of existence, but the rebirthing of their intimacy and love so that God's self becomes whole again. Romantic love is the commitment to joy and ecstasy and awe in the midst of each other's joy, intimacy, loving, and awe. When those moments happen between us, both in moments of great joy and fulfillment and moments of great fear and anguish and agony, which we have gone through many times, it has always been this sense that either of us is incomplete and unfinished without the other, that has been both the greatest challenge and the greatest call to move us forward.
You know, the principle that Steve is talking about is that there is a world above and a world here, above and below. And frequently, what we're doing is making it possible for the world above to have its wholeness, that it's not just about us, that there's something bigger that we are a part of. So when we do our part together, the world above and beyond also, the fragments come together. And so it's important not only to think beyond to the other, but for us together to think beyond both of us. So if there's anything that's important about being a miracle for other people, it's how to think beyond yourself, ourselves, into something much bigger and greater.
That's
so
what
beautiful.
happened between Naram and myself from the moment we met in 2007 when I was so ill. And in the years that passed, the times I returned to India, the times I met him here in Los Angeles, that last meeting we had a few years ago, and then the night before I found out that he had left his body, when I had the vision of he and I dancing in the spheres together, that love is a love that binds us all continually. Naram's love for us was not only ethereal, but it was and is also romantic. He was in a romance with all of us in his own way. He shared the intimacy and the struggle for each of us. And for me, it became a catalyst for my returning back to life again and finding the new dimensions of sharing that romance with Eva when I returned from India the first time. And as was said last time we met, that she walked past me in the airport and didn't recognize me because I had returned not to life, but to living, to being the process of moving from one state of incompletion to another state of wholeness. Romance is that process of the unfolding of being. It's not homeostasis, it's homeobalance, it's learning how to dance on shifting sands.
It's really being soul to soul. It's not about being person to person. It's really about being soul to soul.
Hmm.
So you, Clint, have this incredible soul, and you need to make room for another soul. And then together you build a world, as you're doing for everybody here, right? A greater repair. So I know we're coming close to the end. Did you
We want some music. We want some music to anchor it in. I know you have this talent and this gift.
I'll talk about the holidays and then
just two things. We put our this website there that's available for you to connect if you so wish.
Jeff, can you post it again for everyone in the chat and then spell it out for everyone? Jeff, if you could do that real quick.
You know, our Jewish calendar is really important to us. And in fact, tonight is a very important date. And in Judaism, the day begins at night. It's a very unusual concept, I'm sure, for many people, because the darkness is what begins in the world, and then God brings in light. But the more important metaphor is that we begin in darkness and light always comes. It always comes the next morning. So tonight is a commemoration of some of the horrific things that have happened in Jewish history, including the destruction of the holy temples. And so it's called Tisha B'Av, and we welcome anybody who really wants to join. It's a short little service, and you can connect to the email, and then we'll be happy to give you the link.
Which email do you want us to give people so they can participate if they want to? We gave them the website expandedspirit.org.
Yeah,
and is it
NVAYSHLM.com. The Neve, I'll just put it in here. So.
Yeah, I think so, because I think some people may want to participate in that with you. Sounds really beautiful. That's so kind for you to make that invitation to everyone on this call.
It's very much about grief and mourning, and the calendar makes room to express all emotions. And we're all living with a lot of grief and a lot of mourning, a lot of loss and a lot of pain. So we hope that some of you would like to join us. And we want to end with an angel's blessing, because being a miracle for other people is an awareness that you are an angel for other people, as other people are angels for you. And this, yeah.
according to the tradition, we are accompanied, each of us, by 4 malachim. The word angel is not an appropriate translation of the word malach, which means a messenger. On our right hand is what's called the angel Michael, or the messenger Michael, which means, and who is like God, meaning the uniqueness of each being. On our left is Gabriel, or Gavriel, meaning the strength, the might of God's presence. Behind us before us goes Uriel, the light of God's presence to guide us on our way. And behind us comes Raphael, the healing of the presence of the Holy One. And these 4 angels are with us constantly, and above our heads is the Shekhinah, that female divinity presence that holds us all together as we follow that light of the Holy One that takes us through the darkness and transforms the unknown into the known.
So I will invite you, as I do this melody, that I will do some movements to the right, to the left, forward, behind, and then the Viaroshi is above. It's believed that Shekhinah is a presence that's with us all the time. Mimini Michael umismoli Gabriel umilfanai Uriel meacharai Raphael ve'al Ve'al Roshi, Ve'al Roshi Shekhinah, Mimini Michael, Umismoli Gabriel, Umilfanai Uriel, Umeacharai Raphael. Ve'al Roshi, Ve'al Roshi Shekhinah, Ve'al Roshi, Ve'al Roshi Shekhinah.
So beautiful. I just love that peaceful feeling that, and so many comments of love for that angel's blessing. You've just been so blessed by what you shared and by your presence, by who you are, your being. Dr. Ram said there's knowing, doing, and there's being, and you have all three of it. You know, such a beautiful knowing, such a beautiful doing, like actually doing it and coming from your being. And just that alone has blessed us so much. At one point in the call, someone posted something, I think it was Michael, talking about the domino effect of miracles and of love. You know, like one person, yeah. And even I realized that when that example of my mom that I shared, where she was inspired by Louisa didn't know I created this miracle for my mom. And I didn't know that creating this miracle experiment game would create a miracle for Louisa. And then my mom shared it with at least 3 or 4 people that are like, oh, now we're gonna do that thing. You know, so it's like a whole domino effect. One of the participants from London called it the ripple effect. You know, the whole tapestry of miracles that we're weaving as the presence of divine. And so I'm just so grateful for everyone on this call that joined. I'm so grateful you took the time to share with us. And for everyone who's joining for the entire miracle experiment game, on Sunday, you'll have a chance to share more miracles. And every time you share and hear miracles, you never know about that ripple effect that can happen, especially from what Rabbi Steve and Rabbi Eva shared with us today. I'm going into my own silence, a whole month of silence. I've never done this before. I'm a little bit scared and a lot excited. Dr. Ram, I feel like, is calling me to do it. He asked me, you know, he told me many years ago to go for 10 days of silence, which changed my life. And I've been looking forward to a full month since then. Now that the book is published, this is gonna happen. Jaina and all the miracle mentors are really on your side. And the whole thing is set up for you to win. And by winning means to see more miracles happen in your life. And like Rabbi Stephen and Rabbi Eva Robbins said, to be that miracle by recognizing the divine that you are, the divine all around you. Atiti Devo Bhava, in the words of Dr. Naram, to live with more gratitude and focus more on what you want instead of what you don't want. And one of the gifts of having both of you here, Rabbi Steve and Rabbi Ivan, is you give us a model, a mental model, a lived example of what's possible when you live this even in a romantic relationship like you're doing so beautifully. Any final inspiration you want to share with us?
Only that Dr. Naram and you and I and Eva are the simple means by which everyone who is present at this moment has shared with each of us our own transformative moments of loving and sharing. And you will each go out now because you are not the same as you were before this moment. And your transformation will affect every other person, every other soul that you encounter. It is like the waves on the ocean. They each have a voice, but together they create this huge symphony of the sound of being, the whisper of God's voice through the universe. I am here, Hineni.
Just remember the other is just as important or more important sometimes than the I.
Then the self. Shalom Aleichem.
Thank you all. We're very grateful. Thank you. Oh, Clint, you're
You're muted.
muted.
Ah, just imagine I said something so profoundly beautiful and amazing. And all right, I was just saying, I was just expressing love from everyone in the chat, love from my heart, and also I feel the love of Dr. Naram for both of you, and on this call for everyone who's here. I feel like he's very much with us in watching and wanting us to see these miracles, and with even the smallest desire, like helping us on that path. So with love from my heart to your heart, I love you. I'm with you. So grateful for everyone, and just namaste. The God in me honors and bows to the God and Goddess in you. I bow to the place that you and I are one. Love you so much.
Thank you.
Love
Namaste.
you both. Love you all.
Great. So if anyone wants to unmute yourself, you can express your love for Rabbi Robbins.
I love you and I am with you.
Thank you. So beautiful. Thank you.
Little guy, want to say anything? I love you and I'm with you. Little guy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Love you, Dr. Clint.
I love you and I'm with
I love
you.
you and I'm with you. I see you. I love you and I'm with you. I love you. Bye, everyone. I love you and I'm with you. Love you and
I love you and I'm
I love you with you.
It is so cute. This is great.
Wild, man. Yeah, they're too crazy.
All right. Thank you so much. Love you so much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Love you all and thank you.